Good morning, everyone. I want to give a talk today called Living a Spiritual Life in Challenging Times, which is the one I gave at the Blavatsky lecture at the summer school of the Theosophical Society in England and Wales. And it's very important because of the way the world is at the moment. Because we are all aware of the challenging times we live in, with wars and rumours of wars the world over. Trying to live a spiritual life in the midst of all this conflict is more essential than ever. The world needs some love and compassion and a light in the darkness. So this talk looks at ways we can put this into action and into practice. Mahatma Gandhi said in a speech in 1947, "In the midst of darkness, light persists." Remember that. In the midst of darkness, light persists. It is very easy to become lost in all the many fascinating teachings we have from H.P. Blavatsky and the Masters and other spiritual teachers, but we should never forget the main focus of all our studies and meditations is to find ways to put all we learn into practice for the benefit of humanity, for humanity as a whole. By self-induced and self-devised efforts. We are all different, and we can all use our unique individuality to discover ways to make use of the teachings in positive ways that will eventually dissolve all those illusions that separate us on so many different levels. Ultimately, we'll come together in a true spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood. Theosophy leads us towards an understanding of our responsibility to the planet we live on and all its inhabitants, by revealing to us our oneness with all things. It is this interconnectedness that is our true inspiration to try to live a spiritual life. There are countless signposts provided for us in the spiritual and mystical literature of many traditions throughout the world and over many centuries. We just need to try to adapt those teachings to our lives in the most effective way possible to each one of us individually. One of the most important practices for us all to do is to start to think of ourselves more as spiritual beings rather than the material ones that we have all been conditioned to regard ourselves as. Also, to try to see our brothers and sisters in the same way. This may be difficult, given the nature of certain individuals in the world today, but that is a real test. Can we see the light in them, despite their apparent evil? Does that light even exist in some? It must on some very, very deep level. At least we can try to find that light within our own hearts and thereby do our best to illuminate the dark places of the world, inner and outer. Rumi, the Sufi poet, said, "Don't you know yet? It is your light that lights the world. Don't you know yet? It is your light that lights the world." There has to be a solution as to why there is so much hatred in the world and so little love. H.P. Blavatsky says in the Key to Theosophy, if the action of one reacts on the lives of all, and this is the true scientific idea, then it is only by all men becoming brothers and all women sisters, and by all practicing in their daily lives true brotherhood and true sisterhood, that the real human solidarity, which lies at the root of the elevation of the race, can ever be attained. End of quote. Why are we so afraid of each other? So many tragedies, people killed in wars and acts of terrorism. Everyone who dies is someone's son or daughter or husband or wife or mother or father. The perpetrators shut out of their minds any feelings of compassion or love, and driven by some political or religious ideology, are willing to kill or maim their brothers and sisters for something that is ultimately of no real importance. A will-o'-the-wisp in the grand scale of things. People fear what they hate and hate what they fear, and so create barriers that prevent them from looking into the hearts of their fellow pilgrims and seeing that the light that shines in them is no different than the light that shines in you, in me, and everyone. These people smother their souls and become less than human, because unless we are touched by the beauty of the soul, we wander in the dark places of our hearts, devoid of pity, devoid of love, devoid of understanding. Politics and religion divide, or the orthodox politics and religion divide, and make their adherents intolerant of other ways of thought. We have to come to realise that we need to be aware of the spirit in everyone, and that it has nothing whatever to do with man-made religions or philosophies, which reflect the attitudes and prejudices of those who have created them and the time that they live in. How wonderful, then, is it to break free and breathe the clear air of the spirit and soar above the morass of modern civilization. I often use Plato's saying, "Heaven-sent madness is preferable to man-made sanity." It's very, very profound to me. We are told what constitutes sanity, and so it keeps us restrained within the confines of limited thought. It helps us to build our man-forged manacles as our man-made manacles, as William Blake says, mind-forged manacles. We have to act in a certain conditioned way to be regarded as sane. And these are based upon a misunderstanding of our true nature and our true being and what we truly are. If we act spontaneously under the guidance of our higher self, we will be regarded as insane, because those who judge us have no awareness of the spiritual dimension to their being. So to them, it will seem like madness to act under the guidance of a divine self. We are often oblivious of the effect the media is having on us and how little most people actually think for themselves. The majority of human beings are good-natured in many ways, because the feeling of oneness cannot be completely crushed out in most people. But we are still bombarded with images and ideas that are not our own. In fact, in many cases, we may actually think they're our own, but actually belong to someone else, something we saw or heard or read many years ago that has disappeared from our conscious memory, but is rooted in our subconscious and comes to the surface under certain conditions. This is one more proof of our oneness. Everything that we do affects everyone else. So how do we live in the light of our spiritual self in a spontaneous manner? If we are immersed in this society, as most of us are, it is not an easy question to answer. Most of us have duties to fulfill, to family, friends, and our fellow human beings in general. We are on this planet to learn and to grow, either spiritually or materially. If we choose the former, then we should focus our attention on those things that help to awaken our awareness of the spiritual side of life. Beautiful art, poetry, and music can help us to absorb the beauties of nature. We have to absorb the beauties of nature That's most important, because nature is our true guide and our true inspiration. On a still higher level, meditation and the reading and practice of spiritual literature is essential. We must also learn to see what our fellow human beings are in reality, behind the masks they wear. Know that if we criticise anyone for their race, religion, or colour, that we may have been in the same position in a previous life, or maybe in a future one. What connects us is the spirit within, which is identical in everyone. Find the beauty in ourselves and see it in others. Find the beauty in ourselves and see it in others. An appreciation of what is truly beautiful and therefore illuminates the mind and draws it towards the soul, and through the soul to the spirit, is the talisman of the golden thread that leads us out of the labyrinth of our earthbound thoughts and into the pure air of our highest aspirations. Can we truly see what is behind the veil of illusion and into the world as it is, and not as we have been conditioned to see it? Can we become aware of the wonders of nature that are obscured by the selfish goals set by those who will destroy its beauty to gain transitory material goods? These will not outlast the brief time we are here in this life and have no real meaning in the scale of things. There is nothing more meaningful and beautiful than the light kindled in our hearts that will illumine the world we live in and reveal to us the love that transforms and can awaken in others an awareness of the light in their hearts. Those who are willing to follow this often hard and thorny path are those who have pledged to try to end the suffering of those who wander in darkness. Yet these must have found the love and peace that is beyond the suffering. Otherwise, what have they to give and to share? Beyond the seeming darkness, there is perpetual light, the light that never goes out. And only those who have discovered this can safely enter the self-created hell of others, to shine that light in the gloom and lead the way to a deeper understanding, one that tells us that all suffering affects only the transitory physical self and not the higher self, which is in a constant state of meditation in a place of safety. Love is very important. It may have been mentioned lots of times, maybe ad nauseum in some cases, but it's very important. And no one put it better than Leo Tolstoy when he said about love, whether the employment of violence or the endurance of evil will be useful or harmful, I do not know, and no one knows. But I do know, as every person knows, that love is well-being. Love of others for me is a blessing, and still more is my love for others. That's the supreme bliss, is my love for others, and not only for those who love me, but as Christ said, for those who hate me, offend me, and commit evil against me. However strange these things may sound to someone who has not felt this, it is so. When you think about it and experience it, you're only surprised at how you could ever have failed to understand it. Love, true love, love that denies itself and transfers itself to another, is the awakening within oneself of the highest universal principle of life. But it is only true love and affords all the happiness it can give when it is simply love, free from anything personal, free from the smallest drop of personal bias towards its object. And such love can only be felt for one's enemy, for those who hate and offend. Thus the instructions to love not those who love us, but those who hate us, is not an exaggeration, nor an indication of possible exclusions, but just an indication of that opportunity and possibility of receiving the supreme bliss that love gives. That this must be so follows logically, and one only needs to experience it to be convinced. And then instances of offence and assault become valuable and desirable. And thus, having perceived the essence of the human soul, we see that it works in such a way that responding to evil with evil makes it suffer, whereas responding to evil with love leads to the highest attainable bliss. That's very deep. And of course, if we return evil by evil, we're just increasing the evil in the world, or anger by anger, or whatever. The Buddha says, overcome the angry by peace, but overcome the greedy by liberality, etc. In other words, overcome the liar by truth. In other words, just overcome it by the opposite. So what is violence? How did it arise? Why do we allow its existence? It has nothing to do with the spiritual life at all. It has arisen only because of our misunderstanding of our true nature. As I said, overcome angry by love, love and peace. The world goes crazy with man-made violence and cruelty. It becomes more difficult to those on a spiritual path to maintain their equilibrium. But in the end, the good, the true, and the beautiful will triumph over the will-o'-the-wisps of human insanity. This is because there is a light that never goes out, as the Smiths say in a song with that title. In the Bible, John 1:9, there's a mention of the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into this world. In a wider sense, it is a light that illuminates not just men and women, but every living thing, and grows brighter as the vehicle it shines through becomes more refined and is capable of bearing witness to the light, and with it, casting a ray of hope into the hearts of those who struggle in darkness, and helping them to make some sense of their lives at last. We must therefore learn to understand the transience of the material world and live our lives within it, and the fact that the hour will never strike for the true man and woman, the spiritual being. Our future is one of ever-growing beauty and light. We cannot conceive of the worlds that we dwell in, or the wonders that we will see and feel on our pilgrimage once we are free of the grip of the material world. It's beyond our comprehension at the moment. To reach this, we must not run away from the trials of life, but face them bravely and overcome those things that hold us back. Those mind-forged manacles, as I mentioned earlier, that William Blake writes of. If we flee, we will have to return until we have dealt with the problem. The way is not easy. But if we learn to love and understand our fellow pilgrims, then we will never be alone on the often misty roads that we travel together. We must always be ready to lend a helping hand to those who are struggling on the way besides us. We just walk in each other home, as Ram Dass says. H.P. Blavatsky writes, from strength to strength, from the beauty and perfection of one plane to the greater beauty and perfection of another, with accessions of new glory, of fresh knowledge and power in each cycle. Such is the destiny of every ego, which thus becomes its own saviour in each world and incarnation. That's from the Key to Theosophy by H.P. Blavatsky, page 155. So this gives us great promise for the future if we are willing to place ourselves under the guidance of our higher self and live in the light of our spiritual nature. It is all a great adventure with no real end in sight, as far as our limited senses tell us anyway. But on this planet here and now, the first and foremost task we should all undertake is to learn to live together as brothers and sisters, regardless of race, creed, sex, caste and colour. Because, as the Theosophical motto says, there is no religion higher than truth. The world, and very often the media, portrays the world as very much of a place of darkness. We have so many dystopian books and films, and we gain a very negative view of the world. But the world is what we make it, how we look at it, and if we transform our consciousness, the world also transforms. To be lights in the perceived darkness is very important. Pronoia, P-R-O-N-O-I-A, is a word I've come across quite recently. It is the opposite of paranoia, and is the feeling we might have that all is working in our favour. In the world of spiritual teaching and practice, it is said that everything that happens to us, seemingly good or bad, is actually meant to help us on our way, if only we are able to use the experience in a positive way. So we respond to an experience that matters. The modern world conspires to make us feeling depressed and pessimistic at the violence and cruelty that surrounds us. But it is essential that there is a nucleus of souls who are willing and able to look at things differently and thereby help in the healing of this troubled world. Aggression is not the way to get one's point across, but that is what many groups are and individuals are doing. Unfortunately, no matter how worthy the cause, it is merely adding to the storehouse of anger and negativity in the world. We may feel righteous anger at some of the atrocities that go on in this world at the moment. Well, this need not become aggression. It can be used to initiate positive changes for the good, and in the end, only love is beneficially transformative. Is everything working ultimately towards a happy ending, or are we on the path to self-destruction, as many dystopian novels and films portray? Now, the word dystopian can be said to be the opposite of utopian, which depicts an ideal society where everything is perfect and peace and happiness reign supreme. Many critics say that such a state is impossible on this earthly plane of being, and to believe in such a Arcadian society is mere folly. The truth is that the golden age is all around us and within us. Despite Hindu teachings saying that we are in the age of Kali, or darkness, Kali is not just the destroyer, but also the regenerator. The world becomes what we envisage it to be. Materialistic politicians, religious leaders and scientists see only wars and violence as the solution to the world's problems. Mountains made out of molehills in the majority of cases. Lack of perspective and failures to see the beauty and dignity of human nature behind the mask of personality. If we believe in a better world, then the seeds are planted, whether it takes years or centuries for them to sprout. So what has made the world as it is? Only the misguided thoughts and actions of those with power, but lacking wisdom or compassion. The ordinary man or woman in the street has become infected with pessimism due to the media focusing upon the negative news that goes on around the world. The world may not be heading for the destruction that films portray if we are able to recognise what we are in essence: immortal and indestructible beings. Even those who do not believe this would surely have something positive, or to leave something positive behind when they move on from this world, no matter whether they think that is or isn't. Most people would rather leave something positive behind, I'm sure. H.P. Blavatsky writes concerning the year 1888, but applicable to any year, man's life is in his own hands. His fate is ordered by himself. That's interesting comment. Why then should not 1888 or 2025 and 26 be a year of greater spiritual development than any we have lived through? It depends on ourselves to make it so. This is an actual fact, not a religious sentiment. In a garden of sunflowers, every flower turns towards the light. Why not so with us? Important point. Turn towards the light, the inner light, the outer light, whatever. She also says that we should try to make life not only beautiful but divine, and vow no longer to be hampered by disbelief in the possibility of the miracle, but to commence the Herculean task at once. Can we all turn towards the spiritual light and make it our guide? End times that are spoken of with finality may indeed also be beginning times, a time of regeneration and transformation. The world moves on, and as suggested by the word pronoia, everything is working towards the good. It is up to those who are aware of their spiritual nature to make use of that knowledge and understand the power of the Spirit to transform, uplift, and inspire. Once we become aware of what it really means to be human, then we will be unable to think of doing any harm to our brothers and sisters. To become human is to become humane. If you're not humane, you can hardly call yourself human. As I've said earlier, it is only a misunderstanding of our true nature that creates the illusions of separateness that is causing so much havoc in the world today. We should try to see the beauty rather than the ugliness, those things that lift the spirit and make us contemplate a better world. Poets, writers, artists, and musicians have all attempted to express this beauty, and spiritual teachers have given us guidelines to realize the higher self. If we can understand and appreciate all living things upon this planet at their true worth, then we will no longer be antagonistic to anyone or anything, or exploit nature merely for material gain. Of course, at the moment, this does seem like building castles in the sky, but in reality, to create a world of love and peace is achievable if people believe in the possibility and set about making it a reality in their a living reality in their daily lives. The beneficial power of the spirit is many times more potent than even the power of the mind. And the two working together can bring about what seem like miracles. So we need to awaken to what we all are in reality, and to what we can achieve with true faith in our higher self. Always try to be optimistic and focus on the good, the true, and the beautiful through all the many trials of life. We are all one in essence, and the union is our true strength. No matter where we are on the path, no matter how dark life becomes, there is always beauty hidden somewhere. When evening falls and all mellows into a serene stillness, and the setting sun casts another amber light over the earth, we can sense that beyond the cacophony, there is something eternally silent and magical that nothing in our material form can touch. There is something we can love that takes our soul into the realms of increasing wonder and enchantment. It's as if we've awoken from a long sleep and are seeing the world anew. Yet most people in their quiet moments have their visions and dreams, unless they fill their lives with constant noise, inwardly and outwardly. They have moments of bravery, kindness and love, which can be manifestations of the higher self breaking through from time to time. Another quote I often use is from Pythagoras, and who stated, "Take heart, for the race of man is divine." And H.P. Blavatsky writes that no true theosophist will ever despair of humanity. A theosophist is one who travels a true spiritual path and is not necessarily the member of any society or organisation. So we see there are so many individuals and groups trying to bring a little sanity into this world at the moment, when insanity seems to rule everywhere and to reign supreme, which is just another illusion. The effects of efforts on a spiritual plane, as I've said, are much more potent than even on a material level. So these which remain grounded and the material ones remain grounded and have no wings to soar. So people on a spiritual path can go beyond any kind of materiality, which cannot touch them in the final analysis. The race of man and woman is indeed divine, and we need to start to regard it as such. We've got to bring a golden age back to this earth. Goethe wrote, "My friend, the golden age has passed away. Only the good have the power to bring it back." My friend, the golden age has passed away. Only the good have the power to bring it back. So the earth follows certain cycles of time, but this does not mean that they are deterministic. There are wheels within wheels, and we can affect the course of events by our meditations, thoughts, and actions. If we really want a golden age, we can bring it about. It is a strange anomaly that the world seems to want the opposite at the moment and works towards creating a hell on earth. Even most religions are preoccupied with gaining converts and denouncing other ways of thought that do not coincide with their own. They've forgotten the teachings of their founders. But love and light can win the day if we forget all our petty differences and work together as human beings to bring an end to wars and conflicts. Let us then not underestimate the power of the Spirit to bring about changes and affect the very atmosphere that surrounds us. It is such positivity that is needed to stop seeing life as a meaningless burden and begin to discern the eternal path that leads to the heart of the universe. Sri Radhakrishnan writes, "When all seems lost, light from heaven breaks, enriching our human life more than words can tell. A sudden flash, an inward illumination we have, and life is seen fresh and new. When the divine birth takes place within us, the scales fall from our eyes, the bolts of the prison open, the Lord abides in the heart of every creature, and when the veil of that secret sanctuary is withdrawn, we hear the divine voice, receive the divine light, act in the divine power. The embodied human consciousness is uplifted into the unborn eternal. The incarnation of Krishna is not so much in the conversion of Godhead into flesh as the taking up of manhood into God." Very wise words. In Theosophy, we have a much different interpretation of the word God. It has little to do with anthropomorphizing the idea of a being outside us, who tends to get very angry if we do not bow down and worship him, and exacts a terrible revenge on those who oppose him. Our concept of God is of the God within each one of us, and which is the embodiment of pure love and compassion. A poem by the 14th century Sufi poet Hafiz says, I have learned so much from God that I can no longer call myself a Christian, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Jew. The truth has shared so much of itself with me that I can no longer call myself a man, a woman, or an angel, or even a pure soul. Love has befriended Hafiz so completely, it has turned to ash and freed me of every concept and image my mind has ever known. That's really fantastic. It just says everything. Identifying with a certain religion, philosophy, or way of thought creates divisions. We have to learn that the higher self is beyond any kind of conceptualization. And we need to live in the light of that impersonal self. However, impersonality does not automatically mean to be cold and distant, as the word may imply, in our modern interpretations. Another quote I often is from Robert Crosby. Robert Crosby's book, The Friendly Philosopher. He was the founder of the United Lodge of Theosophists. And in this book, he states, for practical purposes, if we are developing the child heart, if we are learning to love things beautiful, if we are becoming more honest and plain and simple, if we are beginning to sense the sweet side of life, if we are getting to like our friends better and extending the circle, if we feel ourselves expanding in sympathy, if we love to work for Theosophy or any true spiritual way of thought or way of thinking, and do not ask position as a reward, if we are not bothering too much about whether we are personal or impersonal, this is travelling on the path of impersonality. I'll say that again because it's really, really important. For practical purposes, if we are developing the child heart, we are learning to love things beautiful, if we are becoming more honest and plain and simple, if we are beginning to sense the sweet side of life, if we are getting to like our friends better and extending the circle, if we feel ourselves expanding in sympathy, if we love to work for Theosophy but not to ask position as a reward, if we are not bothering too much about whether we are personal or impersonal, this is travelling on the path of impersonality. And this is really, really good. I think this gives a much different, a more satisfying view of impersonality and helps us to see the spiritual path in a much different light. So to sum things up and recap certain points and go over certain things I already said, to re-emphasise, there's something within each one of us that takes no note of conditions, but finds its strength in something much deeper. It's important to remember that this is who we are, what we really are. In this world, we live a false life, moulded by education and society in general. We are made to fit into pigeonholes. We become a collection of names and concepts that are not really our own, so that we slot into the world created by others based on materialistic ideas and the cult of the personality. Of course, to a certain extent, we have to do that to be recognisable in the world, but we have to be aware of something beyond that too. It takes something either traumatic or wonderful to take us beyond all that and to see our true self in a transcendental divine life. As the Ma Chuan, as the Master's Master says, this is our natural life. It isn't weird or mystical, really. It's just how we should be when all the masks are removed. Think about it. Are we ever able to be what we truly are with all the pressures and distractions that life throws our way? Perhaps in quiet moments of meditation or out in nature, we have intimations of our immortality. Well, these rarely last for very long. It's always very useful to be alone sometimes. If we go out into the countryside with others, we may lose some of the benefits with meaningless conversation, unless we are lucky enough to be out there with a twin soul with whom we are able to share the beauty. Nowadays, people seem to prefer the counterfeit world of the internet to the real one, and are too engrossed in their phones to be aware of the wonders around and within them. Again, the internet is useful in many ways, but it must not rule us. It must be always used as a tool. Yet we should not be too critical of human nature. Most of us have a longing for something more permanent amidst the ever-changing kaleidoscope of life. We too often fill this longing with transitory objects, ideas, and thoughts. What is eternal in us makes us awaken in so many ways. It transforms us into real human beings, expressing in our lives the spontaneity of being alive, with an inspiration of our own as our guiding light. We all find our own inspiration. There may be a gap between speaking about living a spiritual life and actually putting it into practice. It is easy to use words, but difficult to actually manifest them in our day-to-day lives, with all the pressures of modern society and the instantaneous reactions we have to certain situations. That override any noble thoughts we may entertain in our quiet moments alone, when we have time to reflect unchallenged. The Theosophical masters have always told us to try. That was their watchword. In the final analysis, that is all we can do. With persistence, we can reach that calm centre, no matter where we are and in what set of circumstances. Everything is a learning process, and nothing really is a mistake, if only we use it the right way to gain more understanding of our true nature and that of others. Failures can become successes. We can always turn the mind around, if we so wish, and bathe it in the light of the pure spirit. We are only limited by the misunderstandings of that true nature and the limitless potential that is ours for the taking. Love and peace are words that are used almost ad nauseum in the world today. Do we really know the power of these words when transformed into positive actions for the good of humanity? Do any of us really understand the sacrifices made by so many to make them a living reality in our daily lives? They are the alchemy that will transform this planet into a golden age of light and love, if only we make the effort to comprehend what they really mean beyond the words. The world thrives on noise and disharmony. The universe exists in a state of tranquility and serenity. We are that universe, microcosms of the macrocosm. We have all the powers of that universe within us, waiting to manifest and bless and save humanity. The heart is the centre of spiritual consciousness. Let us radiate out from that sacred place the vibrations that will help to bring peace to this troubled earth, and not be put off by the seeming impossibility of the task. Spiritual powers are countless times more potent than material ones, and it is essential to be aware of this. It is our talisman. So I will finish with a quote from H.P. Blavatsky's Messages to the American Conventions in 1888. She says, "The tendency of modern civilization is a reaction towards animalism, towards a development of those qualities which conduce to the success in life of man as an animal in the struggle for animal existence. Theosophy seeks to develop the human nature in man, in addition to the animal, and at the sacrifice of the superfluous animality which modern life and materialistic teachings have developed to a degree which is abnormal for the human being at this stage of his progress. Men cannot all be occultists, but they can all be theosophists. Many who have never heard of the society are Theosophists without knowing it themselves, for the essence of Theosophy is the perfect harmonizing of the divine within the human in man, the adjustment of its godlike qualities and aspirations, and their sway over the terrestrial or animal passions in him. Kindness, absence of every ill feeling or selfishness, charity, goodwill to all beings, and perfect justice to others as to oneself are its chief features. He who teaches Theosophy preaches the gospel of goodwill, and the converse of this is also true. He who preaches the gospel of goodwill teaches Theosophy. So just to re-emphasize that, kindness, absence of every ill feeling or selfishness, charity, goodwill to all beings, and perfect justice to others as to oneself are its chief features. He who teaches Theosophy preaches the gospel of goodwill, and the converse of this is also true. He who preaches the gospel of goodwill teaches Theosophy. Words well worth meditating upon and putting into practice in one's daily life. And hopefully together we can bring about a better world. It may take weeks, it may take years, it may take centuries, it may be instantaneous. We don't know how it's going to happen. We should always believe that it will happen and keep that within our hearts 24 hours a day. So thank you very much for listening. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings. See you all again very soon, hopefully.